Hey guys, how's it going? We are going to be cutting back our dahlias today, and look how much growth these guys have put on. Isn't this so amazing? I grew all of these from tubers, and look how much growth we have on these. I am so excited to get these guys cut back. It means that I get to start doing some exciting things with my dahlias, and this is kind of an important step when growing dahlias. So I got a whole bunch of tubers, and I ended up dividing them very recently. It was just a couple weeks ago at this point, and this is how much growth they have put on. Some of them have decided not to come up, and that's okay. That's expected as always, but for the most part, we got really, really good growth out of these. So I'm very, very excited. So today's plan is to take some cuttings and to pinch these guys back, and that is so important when growing your dahlias. First things first, I'm gonna start with a very sharp pair of pruners. I've got a little file because mine definitely need to be cleaned up. They're a little bit rusty right now. So I've got some snips and I've got my Felcos. So I have my file right here. This is the one that I'm using. They make much smaller ones. You don't need a file that's this size, but it's really straightforward. You just go across your clippers and you're just trying to get off some of that corrosion that's happened. I just kind of go down them, and once you start to see it kind of have a nice sheen to it, then you know it's ready. So once you see it come back to life, you're good to go. This one, probably the blade should be replaced on it because I do have some pretty big gashes out of it. But I'm gonna just continue to file this thing until I can actually no longer file it. So once you see that it's got a nice, beautiful sheen to it, then you should be good to go on this. I'm gonna do the same thing on these ones. This one's a little bit hard because these are curved, but I do really like these. These ones are my Corona snips. These are the AG4940s, and then I've got my Felco 5s. And this one really would be better if I had a smaller file, but I don't have a smaller file, so we're just working with what we got. This one I do file both sides because both of these are cutting blades, and it just takes a couple seconds. And then these are nice and sharp again. So I usually try to do that anytime I'm doing something like cutting my dahlias or anything important. I do try to make sure that I've got nice sharp blades. So now my plan, because I want to take cuttings from this, I need to fill up one of these. I'm gonna make it so that I can just pop my cuttings into this. So I just want more of this one. This is the Pineland Princess. I've got one over here. This is the Orange Impact, and I don't want more orange. I've got 4 of them, and that's more than enough. I do have a White Perfection, but it's not ready to take cuttings from. So this is the White Perfection one, and it's much, much smaller than the rest of these. So this one is going to stay exactly as it is. I'm not going to be touching this one today, but I do plan to cut back everything else, and it's really, really straightforward. So let's fill this up with some dirt so I can pop my cuttings into this. So we are using our Bootstrap seed trays. I do get questions about that a lot, and they are sponsoring today's video. So thank you to Bootstrap for sponsoring today's video. This is the 4-cell. I do prefer the 4-cell. I've had all of their stuff. I've bought the 72-cell count. I've bought the 4-cell. I've bought the 6-cell. And for me, I'm really bad about remembering to water things. So I have found that with bigger containers, you have to water them less. And so the 4-cell is perfect for me. It just means that I also can start less because less starts will fit in one of their trays, which is fine because really, how many do I need to grow? Not that many. So what we're gonna do is we're going to be taking one of our dahlias. So we are going to take these ones. These are the Pineland Princess, and we need to cut these. And the reason we need to cut them is so we can continue to promote branching on these. I don't want this just to be a straight shoot. We want to cut these while they're young, and then all of a sudden, everywhere that there is a leaf, it'll shoot out a branch. And so it's going to make for a very, very full plant. So I'm going to leave 4 leaves, and then I'm going to cut this off just like that. We're going to take this, set that guy aside. I'm going to be popping off these leaves here because it doesn't need these. And then this little stub here is going to go inside of this. And all of this is going to start growing roots. And so dahlias are really easy to propagate, which is really exciting because dahlias can be very expensive. So we're just gonna go ahead and bury this. I expect to see some wilting happen, but I also expect it to then grow roots and be very happy. The reason that you want to cut off the foliar growth is because you have that little teeny tiny stem trying to keep all of this alive, and this right here is enough for it to photosynthesize. So we're gonna do the same thing on this, leaving 2 sets of leaves, cut off these lower ones, and pop that in there just like so. And now I have 2 more of the Pineland Princess, and it's very, very straightforward. So I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna do the same on this. So we'll come in, leave 2 sets of leaves, pop off these guys. This one has a very long stem, which is not bad at all. Put that like so. I might even come in and pop off one of these because this is a, there we go. You want less foliar growth on your cuttings than you think you need. If you have too much, it's really going to be quite hard for your plant to stay alive and continue to feed all of that. So like this one, I'm just leaving one medium-sized set of leaves, and then this new collarette of growth. And then we're gonna pop this down in here. If you wanted to go the extra mile, you could go ahead and you could use a rooting hormone, and that'll help push more growth on it, and it'll really help with the root growth. I don't have any rooting hormone, or at least I can't find my rooting hormone, so I won't be doing that. I am also going to come in, and this has 1, 2, 3. I am going to pop this off, and I could, you know what, I might do it. I'm gonna do it. I was gonna say that I'm not going to, but I'm going to. I'm gonna pop this in here just to be safe. This will just be a little bit of insurance that this one has 2 in it. And I do need to come in, I need to cut this guy also. This one has a very thick stalk on it. So if you want your dahlias to grow further, buy, you know, 1 tuber of a dahlia that's a little bit more rare or whatever it might be, and then you can pot them up once they start to sprout, and you'll get a whole bunch more dahlias. So right now I've got 4 more of these dahlias, which is more than I need. I don't need that many of these anyways. So some of this will end up going to friends. I'm gonna cut that top off there. And this whole tray is done. These are going to go back inside under grow lights now. So technically my last frost is actually over at this point, which is so crazy. Our first frost is sometime between December 11th and December 20th on average. And then our last frost is sometime in February between the 11th and the 20th. So we have a 2-month window that we could possibly get frost. And we have a very long growing season. We're very, very lucky here. So I have to get a much further head start than a lot of other people have to get in their gardens. So your dahlias should not look like this if you are in a colder zone. If you still have snow on the ground, you need to start your dahlias 3 to 4 weeks before your frost. You want to get them woken up before your last frost, so that way you can get out there in the garden when it's time and you can get them planted and you have a really healthy start. I will not be putting anything in my garden until I am 100% positive that we're not going to get a frost, because it would be so heartbreaking to plant these and then all of a sudden we get a frost and all of my dahlias just died. So your average last frost date, if you don't know it, just Google your zip code and then average last frost date, and then it should tell you exactly when your average is. Doesn't mean that a freak storm can't come and take out everything. So I like to be extra safe, and I'll usually wait a couple extra weeks just to be safe, because I have had that happen where I did not wait, and then all of a sudden we get a freak frost. And usually, this is so upsetting, it happens in April. And that is way past our average last frost date. But usually what will happen is we will get a freak hailstorm. So it doesn't actually hit freezing temperatures, but the hail is frozen and it comes down onto the ground and it takes out everything, it puts holes in everything, and then it's frozen and it's cold and it's on my plants, and all my plants die because it's so cold. So we're going to be smart and we're going to wait a little bit longer. I'm probably not going to wait until April, but when we get into April, I'm going to keep an eye very close on the forecast, because like I said, it's usually around April 10th through the 15th that we'll get a hailstorm. And I know that because that's about my birthday, and it usually happens about my birthday and upsets me because everything gets destroyed in the garden. So these are all just gonna grow back under grow lights. I've got some new cuttings, which is really exciting. And I've got some more that I'm just waiting to see if they'll wake up. They really should be waking up, but I am not seeing, like, I'm gonna pull this out. I'm not seeing, oh, I'm seeing a little bit of root growth. Some of these just might be taking a little bit longer. So I don't know if you can see, but there are some white roots on here. And so those white roots are waking up. And so this dahlia is waking up. It's just taking its sweet time. So I'm gonna rebury this now. So this white perfection might just be a slow grower, and that's okay. Not all dahlias are fast growing. One thing to note though is when you're getting your dahlias planted in the garden, you wanna make sure you feed them. They are definitely a bit more of a heavy feeder in the garden. So keep these guys well fed when you get them planted in the landscape. And then also you want to make sure that they're buried nice and deep. And you'll probably, if you're in a more tropical zone, even I deal with this, you might deal with powdery mildew. Powdery mildew is not great. It's absolutely awful. Oh, this one's dead. Oh, there's two in here. Perfect. Powdery mildew is not fun to deal with at all. It's actually really kind of a bummer because then your plants look terrible and your flowers look terrible. So it's just absolutely atrocious. But if you're dealing with powdery mildew, you can always spray something for that. You can always just try to treat your plants, which is usually what I try and do. Does it always happen? No. Where's this dahlia at? Oh, there it is. The world's smallest tuber. That is so funny. Could grow. You can always spray though if you deal with powdery mildew. I know a lot of people deal with powdery mildew, and so they make it so they think it's not worth it. But I still think even if you're dealing with powdery mildew, it's worth it to grow some dahlias. I didn't grow any last year, and I really missed them. I really want to get my hands on the cafe au lait dahlias this year. I just haven't, and I should have tried to get my hands on them a while ago. They're just so expensive, so I'm having a hard time wanting to buy any dahlias because of how expensive they are. I feel like the prices just become absolutely ridiculous. So I won't be buying cafe au lait unless I can find it local and I can find it at a much more affordable price. Who knows if that's gonna happen though. So with that, my dahlias are all up and ready, and I'm going to put them back inside. Once I'm ready to bring them outside, I'm gonna do what's called hardening off. And with hardening off your seedlings, you need to, or your plants, anything, these have been grown inside, they're used to no UV rays, but they're used to beautiful, warm home temperatures, nice and cozy. And outside, it's not warm and cozy, and there's UV rays even in the wintertime, so they're not used to that. So we're going to put these guys in a shaded spot for one day, and then we will bring them back inside at nighttime, and then we will bring them back outside, and they'll go into a dappled area for the next day, and then they will come back inside, and then they will go to another area that's got a little bit more sun, mostly dappled, maybe just some morning sun, and then they will come back inside again. Fourth day, I will leave them outside. They won't be in full sun, but they will be in a lot more sun. And then they should be hardened off. So I will leave them out overnight. And then once I leave them out overnight, then I'll be good to go to plant them into the landscape. So hardening off is very crucial. Otherwise, all of your plants will die. If I were to take these and they were used to my nice warm inside and no UV rays, and I were to plant them in a full sun area, which is what dahlias want, and I were not to harden them off, they would all wilt, they would all die, and all of your efforts would just be to waste. So make sure you harden off your seedlings and your dahlias. These are gonna go back inside though for now. And now that I've got my cuttings all taken and my dahlias all ready to start growing for me, we are going to work with this stunning lilac vine. Isn't this the most beautiful vine you've ever seen in your entire life? It is a winter blooming vine. How cool is that? So when you need that winter interest, and that's the time that you need it the most because spring and summer, everything is blooming. Wintertime, it looks sad. This is it. And I feel like I should probably pick up a second one of these vines. I'm kind of bummed I only grabbed one, so I might have to make a second trip to go pick up a second one. I picked this up a couple weeks ago at this point, and it's so beautiful. I paid $22.50 for it. This is a Happy Wanderer, growing zones 9 through 11, and it gets about 15 feet tall, and it does spread. And you can also prune on it to kind of keep it in check, but oh man, I'm so excited to have this vine. I'm gonna grow this in my front yard along our white picket fence. I thought, how beautiful are these purple vines going to be in the wintertime while everything else is looking so incredibly sad, that this is just going to be an amazing pop of color up in my front yard, especially on the white picket fence. And then when the blooms fade, I will have this beautiful evergreen vine that's growing, providing a beautiful green interest during the spring and summer when everything else is blooming. So this thing is gonna shine while everything else is still asleep or it's not even planted. And then while everything else takes off and is competing, this thing's gonna go to sleep. So I'm very excited to get her in my garden. I can't believe I didn't add one of these sooner, but when I saw a whole pallet of them at the very front of this nursery, I knew I needed to grab one, and now I'm kicking myself for not grabbing 2 of them. They also come in white, and I think if I go back, I might get a white one, because how pretty would it be to have the white blooms and these beautiful like purple lilac looking blooms. I think the white one would look more a little like a white wisteria, which I love wisteria, but I don't do well with them. I've killed 2 of them. I'm hoping that I can eventually one day keep them alive. And so if I can get a vine that tolerates the sun here and it thrives and it doesn't take over like wisteria can take over, that I'm gonna win. It'll be perfect addition to the garden, especially if I can get it in white. I'll have a purple one and a white one. And could you imagine, I've got this telephone pole, this unsightly thing that needs to be hidden, and the vine gets 15 feet tall. It would hide it perfectly. So let's go up front and we'll get this one planted. Okay, we are up at the very front of my house now, which is where I want to grow the lilac vine. I'm going to put it right here and have it grow up the fence and grow across and then grow a little bit this way. We don't have much room, but if I can get it to grow to right about here, which is where we have a picket fence, I think that would be so stunning. Can you see this? Fully green in the winter time, and then it's got these beautiful blooms. So I do plan to go in with a little bit of fertilizer for this. It's one plant that can be over fertilized, so if you don't have the right fertilizer, your probably best bet is just to skip fertilizing just in general with this one. If you over fertilize, you'll risk not getting blooms and you'll risk just getting foliar growth on it, or you'll risk over fertilizing it and it not making it. So we're gonna go in with a low fertilizer. So we're gonna go with something like Plant Tone, which is I'm going to be using today. It is a 5-3-3, I believe, which is your NPK. So it's your nitrogen, your phosphorus, and your potash, which gives you your foliar growth, your blooms, and your root growth. So it's got all of those things in it, but we're going in with a very low dose of all of it. So the lower your numbers, the better off you are. So you can go in with something like Plant Tone, like I'm going in with, or you could go in with the EB Stone, their all-purpose plant food, which I believe is a 5-3-3 or it's a 5-5-5. Very low numbers. You can get things that are like 24, 12, 14, and it's just, that's way too much. So if you don't know what your fertilizer is, just skip fertilizing or look it up and just go in with a low fertilizer. But we're gonna get it planted right there, and I'm going to use my little teeny tiny shovel that a lot of people really hate. I love this little shovel because it helps me get into little teeny tiny areas like this. I've got a grass growing right here, and I don't want to use an auger or a big shovel because that won't work. So I'm gonna use my little shovel that I absolutely love, and we're gonna get in there so that way I don't make too big of a mess. I am so in love with the way that that looks already. Holy cow, that is going to be so striking. We're gonna give it a year. It's gonna sleep. It's not gonna do anything this year. And next spring, it's gonna creep. It might take off quite a bit. And hopefully next spring, it'll grow and it'll be a really good size. And then I expect by year 3 it to completely cover the fence all the way down to that post right there, and I expect by year 3 it to wrap around the corner and do the entire corner there. So this is kind of a hard area for us. We have some water lines right here, and they come out about this far, and then they run down the front of our property. So we can't do anything with super crazy roots right here. I would have loved to have had like a tree or something like that to help with some privacy, but I think that this vine is just going to be so stunning. And then I've got a couple grasses here, and then I've got a small shrub, and then I've got a rose of Sharon right there, and then a woolly grevillea. So eventually this is going to be super stunning and really fill out. It's just gonna take some time. So give it a couple years, and the very front of this is just going to be very dense, very full, which is exactly what I want for this front of our house. I think it'll be perfect. I just can't wait because there's a lot of white going up here. And so just to be able to break that up and grow this vine is going to be so perfect. I did leave the stakes in, and I'm going to leave them in for at least this year. Hopefully we get some growth on it that I can start wrapping it around the fence posts and it can just grow up and do its merry little thing, and I can take those out. But those will definitely stay in there for at least this year to make sure that I don't get any flopping happening. So that, my friends, is all that I have for you today. I am so happy that we got the dahlias cut back and that lilac vine in the ground. Oh, that is gonna be so, so good when it grows up. I mean, look how much white fence there is. And in the wintertime, this is what it looks like. It's just barren. It's not great, it's not beautiful. That is stunning. So I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys for visiting our garden, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.